Hello, everyone. Welcome to Power Hour. I'm Laura Rogers. This is Joelle Jobson. And today's topic is going to be in Power Apps, how to create tabs at the top of your gallery to mimic filtered views in SharePoint or different views in SharePoint. So we'll go through that process with a list and a library. Here's the stinger. All right, so this is our weekly show, Power Hour, we do on Wednesdays at 11 Central. And Joelle and I have been doing this for probably, almost 10 years or so. It's evolved from just SharePoint Power Hour to everything in Microsoft 365 geared towards business users, not super technical or devy. And we do a lot of Power Apps, Power Automate, SharePoint, just all those different apps inside of Microsoft 365. So today is Power Apps. And so you know the concept of a gallery in Power Apps probably. It's just a list of things. And so today we're going to be talking about how to make it look a certain way and have like nice, easy little tabs across the top for people to be able to filter it or just view it in different ways. And there are several different ways that you can accomplish this. So we'll go through just kind of different ways and different reasons that you might want to use different methods. So first of all, let me go ahead and share my screen here. And I have a Power App, which is just on a blank screen. So this is one that you've probably seen before where we do a lot of demos in here. So this is a screen that I've created before that's got a nice pretty list of projects. So in another Power Hour, we had learned how to create these containers inside of the gallery to and a container across the top to kind of help the columns line up with the data inside of the gallery. So what I'm going to do today is a slightly different concept of having a gallery, and instead of just having like we did in this other Power Hour where we just were looking at a list of things and maybe we had done one where we were filtering it by different things just using these drop downs. So in this next one, we're going to just add tabs across the top so that we can slice and dice it according to different things. So I'm going to take this. Let's see if I can just take this whole gallery right here and just copy it and paste it to this new screen. So I kind of have something to start with, so I don't have to spend a lot of time just building the gallery. So here is my gallery, and I'm just going to put, for the items, I'm just going to put projects. So this is a SharePoint list called projects. So this is what the SharePoint list looks like, and so this is the backend data that we're working with in the Power App. And we have a status. So that's one thing that people might want to have a filter on is just the project status. And then project manager, you could have a filter that's got just like your own projects that you're the manager on. So let's go ahead and do, for the first thing that we do, just have the project status, and we'll just create a couple of tabs across the top for a few of the different statuses so that you can see one way, and again, there are lots of different ways to do this, one way that's that we can accomplish having tabs for filtered views. So let me go back over here, and a tab is really just going to be a button. So I can say, I'll go ahead and insert a button, and I'll call this active. So that's going to be the active project. See, oh wait, let's see. Yeah, active is one of the statuses. And then I'll create another tab that says quote sent. Look, before you start copying the tab and creating all the other tabs and just creating new buttons for all the tabs, let's spend a couple of minutes just making it look more like a tab and making it look like the right colors and what we want it to look like when people are using it. So I'm going to make it look like, visually look like a tab, we're going to put some curved corners across the top. So the curves are the border radius, but if I go here, let me zoom in. Let me see if I'm zoomed in far enough. Let's see. Yeah, I think 125 is good. All right. If I go over here in this properties panel and I go mess with the radius, that's going to do the border radius around the entire button. But I just want to do the top 2 corners because I want it to visually look like a tab. So instead of doing the border radius here, I'm going to go to the Advanced tab and then go ahead and go to, I'll just do search for radius. And then those are my 4 different corners, 4 different radiuses. So really I'll do the top left is 20 and the top right is 20. And then now you can see it actually looks like a tab. So then that's how we can start creating our tabs. Now you can also do, we're not going to spend a lot of time creating column headers because those are just labels that we add across the top. So like on this main list, I had created column headers. So I'm just going to copy that too. And then just copy it and paste it over to the other screen. So again, just to kind of save some time. So paste that over there. And move this a little. There's this whole thing is a container. And again, that was a whole power hour we did about that specific thing of how to do containers across the top for column headers. So I kind of like this with the light purple and then the dark purple, and kind of gives it, makes it look a little different. So I'm going to take this tab and, okay, so I'm going to use a variable. The way this is going to function is that when you click, at least this first way we're going to do it, when you click the tab, it's going to set a variable, and then the variable is going to be what filters this list. So when I click active, it's going to be filtered by active projects, etc. So you also have to think about when you're creating tabs, do you want to have like a default tab that just says all items and just show everything, or do you want to just show the active ones by default, or some particular status by default? So I'm going to say these are projects, and we probably do just want to look at the active ones as the default. So I'll just leave that here. But then what we're going to do is when somebody clicks this, that's going to set a variable, and the variable is going to be what we filter this list by. So I'm going to go ahead and set up just the one tab and get as many things set up on that one tab as I can from the get-go before I start copying and pasting it to create the other tabs to save some time. So on select, so I've got this tab selected. So on select, so that you can't see because it's behind Joelle's face in the screen sharing, but that is the on select property. And so by default it says false, and I'll just say I want it to set, and you could do an update context, a local variable. I'm just going to do a global variable, and I'll call it var project tabs. You can call it whatever you like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use whatever word is typed on this label. So let's go ahead and give this button a better name. So BTN tab active. And then what I can do is if I want to refer to this button and the property of it, I could say button tab active dot text. And that would actually set the variable as whatever text is on this button. So I can also use self though. So if I use self, I'm also referring to this button, but then that way when I copy and paste this button to create other buttons and it just refers to self, it's just going to look at its own property. So I'm going to say self.text. And okay, so watch this. So when I click it, it sets the variable. So let's go look at the variables. Var project tabs, and see now var project tabs says the word active because the button said active. Does that make sense? So if you all are in the chat, the YouTube tab in Teams was just not working. I usually just have it displayed in YouTube in the chat in the Teams while you're chatting. So we're still chatting in Teams. It just won't display the YouTube next to it. So I put a link to the YouTube video in there. But you could still ask your questions and say hello in the chat while we're going. All right, so okay, so it sets, you understand right here what we just did? I'm setting a variable to whatever the word is that's typed on this tab. Also, when you're using tabs, you're going to want to have it be disabled. You don't want you don't want it to be a button necessarily if people are already on that tab. So you can disable the tab if it's the one that you're on, so that the other tabs are the only clickable ones. So that's another thing that we can do is we can say if, let's go to we're going to disable it. So we're going to say display mode disabled. So if var project tabs, I've got too many variables in here, equals self dot text, oops, then display mode dot disabled. So if I am on that tab, it'll be disabled. Otherwise, it'll be editable. Otherwise, comma. Okay. So if I'm on that tab is going to be disabled. And notice now that tab visually looks disabled and it's gray. That's another thing that we can control. So in our properties for this button, we have a disabled color and disabled fill. So we can control what the button is going to look like when it's disabled. So instead of having, let's see if I go down here, disabled color, see I can change it. It says gray. So when it's disabled, I want it to be like this dark purple maybe. And then for the text, when it's disabled, I want it to be disabled color. Oh, here it is. I want it to be white. There. So now it's disabled, but it just, now it looks normal, but you just can't click on it. So now I'm going to copy this and paste it to create the next tab. And the next tab is going to be, I'll put it just kind of over one, and it'll be quote sent. And when it's not disabled, what is the color going to be? Let's see. Fill color, just the regular fill color is going to be like this sort of other one right here. Let's see. All right, so I'm on the active tab now. When I preview it and I go to quote sent, now I haven't done anything with the filter of any of this data yet. I'm just showing you how to make the tabs. That's all I've shown you so far, is how to make the tabs visually look like they're clicked, and then make it set a variable. So I see I have active and then quote sent. And so that's how they're going to work as far as having that visual effect of going across and clicking the tabs. So now what we want to do is filter this list. So you can see the status here: active, complete, statement of work sent, quote sent. So I'll just do another one. Just copy and paste that tab and put statement of work sent on that one. And then now we'll look at the filter. So this right now, this is just all projects. It has no filter on it. And this is, I've selected the gallery here. So I have the gallery, gal projects _1 selected, and I'm going to the items. This is the items property at the top, items. And then right now it just says projects because it's just showing all projects. It has no filter or anything on it. So this is where I'm going to say filter projects where, and then I'm going to say the status. Let's see, project status dot value. So this is a choice field in SharePoint. So I have to put the dot value in it, equals var project tabs. Okay, so I'm going to filter the projects where it equals whatever the variable currently is. So I'll go to active, and notice I see all my active projects, go to quote sent, and now all the quote sent projects, statement of work sent, I've only got one. So there we go. That's an easy way to create quick filtered tabs on just a SharePoint list. Any questions about that so far? Let's see. Okay, so now we have different ways that we can accomplish this. So another way, if you want your tabs to look, if you want the data that's showing to look very different, so maybe when you have quote sent, it'll show other columns, like different things, other columns that aren't showing when you're looking at active projects. Well, the other way that you could do this would be to have, you could have completely different galleries. So you could have, now, if you do completely different galleries, that you could get into a performance issue. So that's going to be something that you want to weigh, like the quantity of data and like the quantity of galleries like in your app could slow down your app. So, but if you have, I mean, it's when you're dealing with galleries and lists of things in Power Apps, you always have to kind of go through this weighing the options and trying to see what's going to have the best performance. So this is going to be another one of those things where if it's feasible in your app and you're not looking at like that, not trying to look at thousands of items in one gallery, then, or you know, in several galleries, then you could just have several galleries. So what you could do is take this whole gallery and have it set up the way you want, and even have a whole set of columns set up the way you want. And then instead of filtering the data, what you'd have to do is, for if you had multiple galleries, for each gallery, you'd have to go to the visible property. And what you do is, instead of having, and also for this list of columns at the top, the column names at the top as well, instead of having a gallery that the filter is the only thing that changes, the visible is what you would have being changed. So if I want my second copy of this gallery to only show when somebody clicks quote sent, then you would say it's only visible if, like, var project tabs. I'll just say this gallery is only visible if var project tabs equals active. So then this is the gallery that I'll be using when it's an active project. And then when I go to other tabs, I could use completely different galleries. Now, they could be galleries showing the same set of information, but if I want them to look very different and have different things in the columns and different buttons and things, you could just have different galleries. Like I said, there are always several different ways to do this. Let's see. All right, you all just let us know in the chat if you have any questions. And then, so now that we've looked at just a simple way that we can show tabs, think about you could think about other columns that you might want to have. So this one was just based on only that status column. Let me go put the visible back how it was. Just put true here. But we could also have another tab that's going to show me, we'll do my projects, and will show me projects where I am the project manager. So that's another tab we can add here. So let me just copy and paste. Now this one is where you couldn't just use that exact same filter with the status, because it's going to be a little trickier, because all the status filters are just filtered by the name of the status being the name of the tab. So if we have to have another tab that's going to have a different kind of filter, we have to, the logic has to be a little bit more complex, and then we have to do kind of some extra things. So this one, I'll just call it my projects, or you could just have my projects on a completely different screen. I've done that before. So another option that you have is to have not necessarily multiple galleries on the same screen like I just showed you, but then the next way you could do it would be to have multiple screens. And I've done this for one of my customers that all look exactly like this. And each screen, they look identical, but as people click the tabs across the top, they're actually going to a different screen and they don't even know it. So you don't use a screen transition. It just instantly takes you to the other screen. So they're going from screen to screen, but it looks to them like they're just going from tab to tab on the same screen. Now, when you do that, you're causing yourself a lot of extra work, because then anytime you have changes to make, you have to make it on several different screens. So that's kind of a pain. You kind of, weigh your options again with that. All right, so I'll do my projects, and my projects is going to have a completely different filter on it. So here's how we could accomplish that. So let's go back to our items property. Items here. And then instead of just filtering it on the project status, I'll say, I have to make it more complicated, if their project tabs equals, what is it, my projects? Yeah, equals my projects, then I'm just gonna copy this and I'm just going to change it slightly. So if it equals my projects, and I'm filtering projects where the project manager, let me see, where's manager? Manager, is it called manager, or did I call it PM? Maybe I called it PM. PM. Oh, I just don't know what I called that column. Let me see. Let me go look in SharePoint what it's called. Project manager. Yeah, it's just project manager. Okay. Project. Not project manager data card. I don't want to pick a data card. I just want to pick the project manager column. Oh, good Lord. There it is. And since this is a people picker, I have to do the dot, and then I'll just do email, because that's always unique, equals, and then you could do user like this, dot email, and that will give you the currently logged in user's email. Or if you've got a variable being set, and so one thing I always talk about, a best practice, is that as soon as the app is open on start, you have it set this, I always just call it var current user. I have it set the var current user to whoever the currently logged in user is, and that way you're just doing it once. So then back on my screen, on my filter, instead of having to refer to the logged in user here, I can refer to the variable that I created, dot email. So this is going to be filter projects where the project manager dot email equals the currently logged in user dot email. And then that's how it knows my own projects. So now when I look at my projects, now it just shows my own. So let's look at that filter one more time. I'll do format text to split it out here. If the variable equals my projects, then filter the projects for where, based on the project manager. Otherwise, this is the else part, filter the projects where the project status equals just whatever the value of the variable is. Fun stuff, right? Okay. And then the next thing you all, somebody requested this, was a document library, and showing a document library in here and kind of what you can accomplish with a library, because you can use document libraries in Power Apps as well. So here's one that I have. I've got this list of files in a library. So I'm going to start off just from scratch and build this from scratch, and then kind of show you a couple of different things that I've done in here that you can do with libraries. Now, before I go into that, I'm just going to tell you about kind of what this is real quick, so you'll understand why I did what I did with this weird structure. So in this fictional example, I have a document library. Now, in Teams, you have that general library, which is the one that everything gets created in, just, all your chats exist in, and that's where just your files get dropped in just by default when you create a Microsoft team. When you create other channels in that team, those become folders, and then each channel can actually have its own email address. So if I go to Teams, like if I'm in Teams here, this is our chat for this call right now. I can go to like ideas, and I can say get email address right here. So any channel equals a folder in a library. It automatically is a folder in a library, and that folder can have an email address. So I have people in this fictional example sending emails to this folder called new. Now, pretend you have a bunch of legal documents and you're dealing with lawyers, people that are not part of your company, they're just mailing stuff in. So I have it so that when the lawyers mail things in, they go directly to this channel. And so you've got files, and then the EML part is the actual email body. They all get dropped in here. So what I want to do is categorize those. So when they arrive, people go into this Power App, they review the incoming files, and then since they all just get dropped into this new folder when they just first arrive, I want people to be able to categorize them as to what case, like what legal case the files go with. And there's not a way to do that automatically unless you can count on all those external lawyers like typing a very specific subject line or something, which they're never going to do. So we're going to assess them as they arrive and then pick an existing case for our case management. And then when I click save, it's actually going to move the file to that folder in my folder structure. Now, how that works is not really part of what this demo is, but I want to show you kind of why I'm doing things with the way I'm going to filter things for this library, and ways that you can make it show just files in a specific folder, and to make it not show folders in your Power App, and some little extras like that when you're dealing with document libraries. So that's kind of the reason for kind of all this other weird stuff in here. Okay, so I'm going to take this new screen and just put a gallery on it. And I'm trying to get in the habit of going over here and doing it, because that's where kind of more stuff is. But I'm going to go do a blank vertical gallery. And then I want to use my document library as the source here. And then since I didn't pick a template, I just chose blank, then I can go ahead and just pick title, subtitle, and body here. And then it puts a gallery together for me. And obviously I don't have any columns. I don't have it structured any sort of way. It just picked out random data for me. But this is where I can go tell it which fields I want it to show. So I want it to show this item dot. And then I want it to show like the name of the file name with extension. And then see, a lot of these are folders. So see, they look like, it's like, where's the extension? But it's actually showing me folders by default. You probably are not going to want to see folders in your document library. I'll show you how to filter those out. So now it's got file name with extension, and then kind of what other kind of metadata do I have here? I have really just the name of the file, the ID, like who created it. I have a case. I have just like an ID of what case it goes with. I don't have that much metadata, but so I'll probably just kind of leave it. It's got a date here. It's got when it was last modified. And then actually this is the title right here. So I really want the title to show the file name. It put 3 fields in my gallery here. And then I want this one to show like the case that it goes with. And so it'll show the name of the case there. All right. And then another cool thing we can do with a gallery is make it filter so it's not a folder. So let's do that first. So instead of just documents here, I'm going to do filter documents. Let's go look at not known as folder. Okay, so this is not delegable. So when I say not is folder, it means I want it to show me things that are not folders, because in your library, everything that is a folder has this hidden piece of metadata that's really just a Boolean, is folder equals true if it's a folder. Pretty simple. So the problem with this, and the reason that I have a collection in that other screen I was showing you, is because I don't want to have a delegation warning. Now, that's really only, again, that's another one of those things where when you start building it, you kind of weigh your options, weigh the quantity of files, things that you need to be showing there, with setting up the limitations in Power Apps as to how many items it's going to try and render in one big gallery. That's where you start getting to have to worry about your delegation issues. By default, if I have that 500 is the limit. So if I have more than 500 files it's trying to show here, it's not going to show any more than that. And then you have see, the data row limit is 500. 2000 is the max. So if I change this to 2000, it'll still say delegation warning, but it will show me up to 2000 files. So if your data you're dealing with, your document library, has less than that, then it's not going to be as much of a concern. Then you start having to do more indexing your columns in SharePoint and other. I'm not going to get into delegation though in this Power Hour. So I'm filtering it where they're not folders. So now it's just showing me files. So then another cool thing you can do with files in a library is I'm going to take these things and just move them over a little bit. I'm just going to drag and I'm going to put an image of that document. So I'll go back to that other one. See right here, you've got a piece of metadata called the thumbnail. So this is what we can use to show the thumbnail of the document next to each document. Pretty cool, right? Is there anything else that I'm missing, Joelle? Any other questions?
Don't think so.
Cool. All right. Okay, so the way that thumbnail is going to work is by inserting an image control. So I go insert, I can choose insert over here, image, just type it. I just have to be sure and put my cursor inside of this first row of the gallery to be able to insert an image. Make it bigger. And then for the image, that's going to be this item, dot, and it was thumbnail, right? Dot, when you see it turns red, it means it still needs something else. So I type another dot to see what else it needs. And then it's giving me large, medium, or small. So I just tell it I want a small thumbnail, and look at that. They all just appear. So now I can see the documents. Now the next thing that you're going to want to do most likely is to have it so that people can actually click on those files to open them up directly from here without having to go to SharePoint. You can do that too. So that's another thing that I did back on that other one. So let me go to my on select. And you have a property, a piece of metadata about every file that's called link to item. Every single list item and file in a library has a piece of metadata called link to item, and that's just the hyperlink straight to it. And the launch function is the one that is going to actually pull up a web page. So anytime you need to click something in a Power App that opens up a web page or something else in another tab in the browser, the launch function is what you do. So I'll go ahead and use launch down here. So when I click on this, I'll go to on select. And then I can also say when they click on this one too. So just either one of those ones that they click, I want it to take them to that file. You could also just, in the gallery, if you put the on select, if you select this whole gallery and you choose the on select for the gallery, you can do the same thing. You can I could just put the launch thing. That way they don't even have to click any particular place in that gallery row. Just anywhere they click in the row, it will open that file. So I could do that too. So let's try this off. I've got fiscal year preliminary budget.docx. I click the word, and then I click the name of the file, and then look at that, it opens it in another tab in the browser. Yay. And then like that's a document. This is an Excel spreadsheet, and that one's just opening the spreadsheet. And so another thing that you can do, so I can do the tabs thing here. I don't have that much metadata on this library, but if I had the same kind of concept with, if I had added a column to the library that had a status or a category or something like that, I could do the exact same thing with the tabs here. But you can also do search. Now, I think somebody had asked in the ideas, let's see, let me look in, we have an ideas tab here in Teams that you all let me know your ideas for power hours. And one of them was, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find it, but it was asking about showing documents in a power hour, but also being able to search these and search the text. Now, the search function in a gallery is not going to be able to search through all the text in the whole file. That's going to be more like the hardcore search indexing that already exists by default just in SharePoint, Microsoft 365. That is a full search engine that is going to have all of that. The search in Power Apps is really just going to search through the text of just the metadata that's here. It's pretty simple. So I'll go ahead and just add a search box real quick and see what else we can add pertaining to these files. So I'll just stick a text box, text input, and make it say, have the hint text of search here, or search text. And then, so now it's got a hint text, and then I can also put a little magnifying glass. No, I can't search for it there. Let me go to insert here. I have to go to my icons. And I thought it was called magnifying glass. Maybe it's just called search. Yeah, oh, there it is. Yeah. So then I can make them feel like now it makes sense because it's got a cute little search box icon. And then I'm searching I'm going to search through the file names. So let's see, I'll say the search text box is going to be called txt search documents. And then for the filter here, let's go back to my items property. So now what we're doing here, we're not only going to filter it so that it's not showing any of the folder names, we're also going to filter it so that it filters down to whatever I search for here. So I'm going to put the search on the outside of this. I'm going to search this set of information that I already have. And what am I going to search for? I'm going to search for whatever's typed in this box. So the name of the box .text. And then what columns am I going to search? So I can put multiple columns here. So I'll put file name with extension. What else do I have? Moderation comment, moderation status. I've got version number, author, case. I'm looking for like anything just interesting that it might have. So there's the title. I think a lot of these files didn't have a title, but notice that for the things that I can search through as I'm scrolling through these column names, it doesn't have like the data of like the full text of those files themselves. So it's not going to have that in this kind of interface to whoever had asked that question. Let me see, what else do we have though? Media service auto tags. I don't think that's pertinent. OData extended description. I'm not sure what that is. We'll check that out too. Okay, and then time. So now it's got two different time off policies. Now, another thing you can do with any text box that you have, especially this is especially pertinent when you use it as a search box. There is an interesting property that you can use called delay output. And I'm going to put delay output true. And delay output just, so as I'm typing the word in the search box, it's instantly searching those things. So delay output just adds like a second or two of a delay to kind of let you finish typing what you're typing in the search box. So that's what delay output is. And so you don't put a number in here, you just put true or false. So I click on the text box and I choose delay output. Let's see if I type policy. See, I don't know if you could tell, it just took like an extra second there. And then these are all things that have the word policy in them. Let's go see, let's go look at kind of what that extra column was that I saw there. See, it doesn't have that, it has description here and key points. I'm trying to look to see how far you can go as far as finding more information about the file, like data that might be in the file that automatically gets extracted as metadata. Joelle, are you familiar with any sort of extra metadata that automatically, like extracted text? Have you ever used any of those or kind of know where that comes from? Key points, extracted text. See, I just don't think that those are going to exist in the Power App. But these automatically come
I know that they
from
probably
the file
come from
itself.
search.
I'm sorry, I can't hear. Let me see.
Yeah.
I turned it down. Yeah, go ahead.
The index is the only thing I know that it would probably come from, like the search
Okay.
index.
So the index puts it in these columns though, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So let's see, like key points and extracted text. Let's see. I'm going to look again and see if those exist in here. But I don't think they do. First of all, I'll try to
Did you
add
answer
them
the question about opening in the desktop?
Oh, yes. I didn't see it, but I think I know what you're saying. They're wanting to know if you could force it to open in the desktop app. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
But I had to do that for a customer one time, but it was a couple of years ago, and I don't remember. I had just Googled it. I don't remember what the syntax was, but it was just instead of link to item, I had to put like a whole bunch of extra. I don't remember what it was, though. I'm sorry. But yeah, there is a way to do it. I just don't remember how, and I know I had Googled it. Because I thought that would just be like a sort of less frequent kind of scenario for people to want it to be in the client software. So I didn't go dig that up before doing this demo. Okay, so instead of dot modify, let's see if it's got any of those. So it's got description, which I don't think a lot of these have descriptions. Let me see what else it's got. Extracted text. Ooh. Okay, so let me kind of look through here and see. I'll get rid of my filter and see if any of these have extracted text. Oh yeah, here's one. Let's look in the library. So one file says SharePoint 2016 Power Users is the extracted text. And it looks like a couple of them have key points. And again, that just comes automatically. It's weird. It just comes automatically from the index. So I'm not sure how you could force it to have key points or extracted text. Does anybody have any detailed, Nick usually has a lot of details about, technical details about interesting things like that. Let's see. Okay. So key points, let me see. Oops. Dot key points. Yeah, key points. And then scroll down a little bit more. Let's see. Key points. See, there's some. So that's good. It's going to have a little bit of text that it's going to show here. Like that. And if you had actually typed descriptions, like manually had somebody like type descriptions of each file, you could use that column but these are the automatic ones that I'm looking at, the key points and the extracted text. The problem is it doesn't look like those are available as something that you can have that's being searched through with the actual search function. Let's see. Media service key points. Ooh, okay, so it's not called key points. It's called media service key points. So let's see. So what's one of my key points? I'll go try it out. The word overall is in this one, and that is a file called 20 Years of Research. So let me see. Oh, look at that. Okay, so that's going to be a good way that you could accomplish that. So you could have it automatically look at those key points that come just from the automatic SharePoint indexing that's going on. And these are just two really of the same file that I put in this library. So you could have your key points showing as part of your search results. And then you can also have your extracted text, which I'm surprised more of these don't have. Extracted text showing in them, but these are really just demo files anyway, so a lot of them might be empty. But yeah, so that's how you can do it, have it search, but it's just, again, it's just searching through the file name and, in this case, the extracted text and not the whole file. Let's see. What else do you all, any questions that you all have besides opening the desktop app by default?
It looks like a question came in from our other chat. It was, let's see, can you create a gallery that filters by a person's name on multiple lists?
Well, you could have it filter by their name instead of, so I'll go back to the other one that I did. So in this case, I had it filter by just their email address, but you could have project manager dot display name is equal to the current user dot display name. Oops, it's just called full name. And that's going to give you the first, it's going to match up the first and last name, but the email is really going to be more unique than the first name, last name. So that's why I always just use the email. You could also say project manager dot department. So this would give you a wider swath of information equals var current user dot, oh, it's not going to have department because it's just email, full name, and image. So this is when you come across, if you ever come across fields that you want to use that aren't showing as, like besides those three, the image, email address, and display name, then that's when you start tapping into the Office 365 users data source in order to get kind of more deeper information about that person, like their department and their company name, their hobbies, all those pieces of data that it collects. Let's see. Pretty interesting. Any other questions about ways that you could do the tabs or things that you'd want to do with documents in a library showing in a gallery? Let me go look at what else while I'm waiting to see if there are any questions. Let me go look at what else I had going on in this other one. I had a few filters I want to show you. I wanted to skip all those EML files. So I didn't want this library to show EML files. So I did this not ends with, so does not, the file name with extension does not end with EML. And that's how I'm making it show me all the files, not EML. And for the folder path, I only wanted this gallery to show me files that are in the folder called new. So I said another filter I've got is folder path equals, and I put shared documents, which is the name of the library, / new. And that's how, so when I look here, it's going to be documents / new. And so that's kind of the location of the files I wanted to show. Because once in this specific example, once I move something out of new to another folder, I don't want it to show in that view anymore. So what I had done in this case, if you do, remember I was talking about having the delegation issues and having to worry about those large numbers of files. A couple of things that you can do, since I've got a few extra minutes, is that columns that you want to filter by, if you do have a lot of files or items, is that you can index them in SharePoint. So you can go to the list or library settings, and it will have all your columns listed here. You can click index columns, and the fields that you want to filter by, like in this example, project status. Maybe I have thousands of projects, but I want in Power Apps, I want to filter it by project status, and that's going to be like the main filter I use. I create an index for that column. So for all the different columns that you might be filtering by, maybe you like project manager, create indexes in the SharePoint list settings for those, and that will make it perform better. And then in the Power App, you would be filtering by those. Then another thing you can do is you can do a collection. So like in this case, I had, when I first start this app, oh no, I'm not doing it when I first start this app. I think I'm doing it somewhere else. Somewhere at some point, I'm collecting all the files. They're clicking that button. Arriving, I got to see what I'm doing it. On visible, here we go. So I'm just collecting all the documents into this collection called COL documents. I'm not even filtering it. But if you do have a lot of items and you want to just default filter it down to maybe like only active projects or something like that, you put an index on the column in SharePoint, and then you collect it. You can collect it into a collection of, and put a filter on it, so that then when you're trying to display that list of documents, see, I'm only showing the collection here. So when you are showing a collection in your library, in your gallery, then that's when you can do all these things like not and not ends with, and not end up with all these delegation issues. Now, delegation really is a topic that would warrant like an entire other Power Hour, because those have been just kind of a couple of vague references. But the collection is the reason I'm able to get away with having these weird filters like not ends with, and having it work and having it not give me an error. Let's see, if I wanted to top 2 items as a collection and not want to generate the collection on each load, how would I go about that? You could generate the collection. You have to either collect the collection right when the whole app starts in this app thing in the onStart function property, and do the collect here, or you'd have to do the collect when you're arriving on some screen. And one thing you could do is say, like, you really maybe only want it to collect once. You don't want it to keep collecting like every time they go back to the screen. You could just say, now on start, it's only going to do it once. If you put the collect there, the app only starts once. But you could put it, say, if is empty in the name of the collection, then it does the collection. That way, if it's already done it, then it's not going to do it over and over again. Does that answer your question? Yeah, the collection is not ever just going to permanently exist in your app. It has to either be collected on load when the app starts, or like when somebody clicks a button, or when they arrive on a screen. There's got to be an action where you can put the clear collect or collect. Okay. All right, that was a fun one. Let me go back to tabs. Anything else y'all want to see? Ideas for ways that you want the tabs to work, or in examples of things that you're trying to do, as far as what you need to achieve with your tabs in your gallery? All right. Just keep in mind that I have now a lot of these concepts that I've been talking about. I just dove right in. Everybody already knows Power Apps, galleries, and a lot of these concepts. But if you are not sure what I'm referring to when I talk about a gallery or a button or a function and some of these more fundamental concepts, iwmentor.com is where all of our training is. We have a free Power Apps Basics course, and we have Power Apps Advanced, which is part of our Ultimate Plan, which contains all Power Apps, Power Automate, SharePoint training, and you can get started for as little as $60 a month and just be able to have access to all that and be able to learn in detail what galleries are and what all these functions and properties and things are. So thanks everybody for coming. It doesn't look like there are any more questions. That was a fun one. I enjoyed doing that one, and I'm glad we didn't have any connectivity issues like we had last week, and it was really good to see you all and to see all your questions in the chat. You can always check out iwmentor.com. Let me flip back over here. Go to iwmentor.com and click schedule at the top to see when we'll be having our next Power Hour. Next week, we're teaching our live online advanced Power Apps and advanced Power Automate 5-day class all week. So we'll not be having Power Hour. So we'll see you the week after that. Thanks for